Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Jonathan Bertsonis and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel, where in today's video I wanted to talk about how to succeed in your first job. Now I'm going to be talking about this from two perspectives. One, obviously as a recruiter, and two, as somebody who it wasn't too long ago had his first ever day in the corporate world, and some pieces of advice that I wish I could give to my future self and behaviors that I have seen in successful candidates once placed in their jobs. So, to start off with, is low AI reliance. Now, look, let's keep it real. If you are around my age, anywhere from genuinely speaking, anyone under the age of 60 is probably using AI to some degree. Okay, let's be honest, let's keep it a buck. We are all using AI. Now, the biggest problem I have seen with candidates and when speaking with clients that are hiring graduates, their biggest issue is that these candidates and these employees who now, obviously these graduates that they hire, they can't think for themselves. Okay, so the biggest problem is that you ask them a question, it goes straight to ChatGPT. They try to even just write an email, it just goes straight to ChatGPT. They need to format something, it goes straight to ChatGPT. And 9 times out of 10, that reliance on ChatGPT, they don't actually, get it to do one thing, read over it, and then proceed with it. They get it to do the work, cut and paste, present, you know what I mean, or progress with whatever they're doing. And the problem with that is that obviously if you've used ChatGPT like myself, you understand very, very clearly that it is amazing. It's a great resource to have, but it's not the be all and end all, and it does make mistakes. You know what I mean? For example, for myself, as I work in medical recruitment, and a big part of my work is taking shifts and organizing it in emails. Now, look, I can sit there all day and get the date, the time, the pay, the location, and go one by one by one. I could do that, okay? But I don't. I'll be very honest. I use AI to organize the format, okay? However, there are many times where I will have shifts for 8 months in advance, and the email that I've got it, or not the email, the presentation that I've asked it to put together of organizing of shifts, it may only show the first 3 months. Now, for the problem that I'm seeing with clients that I'm speaking to is that in these situations, these candidates would just cut and paste that email and send it off, when in reality, the person that they've spoke to has asked for shifts 8 months in advance and you've only given it 3. But because you've just done the straight copy and paste, you're relying on ChatGPT to do it for you, and you're trusting in them that they've just done the right thing, and you're blindly following it and then putting it forward as your own product. Okay. The problem with this is, guys, is that ChatGPT does make mistakes, and not even makes mistakes. Okay. ChatGPT just doesn't read the mind of what you actually needed to do. So you may be asked to present something, you may be asked to write an email together, and you may then go to ChatGPT, but ChatGPT may not know the style in which your boss may want it done, or in which way the client would like to read it. So the problem that's happening here is that you're putting in all your time and energy and trust into ChatGPT, that when it comes out and it's being pushed out as your own thing, it's not in the way that it would like to be perceived. And what this does is it creates problems. Now, the biggest cycle that I have seen is that when speaking to clients is they'll hire a graduate. The graduate has now gone through 3 to 4 years of university using ChatGPT for all of his assignments, and then, organizing it through other websites to then make it look like it's not being plagiarized. He then enters the real world and he doesn't know how to actually think. It's not even that he doesn't know how to think, he doesn't trust himself anymore. Why would he trust himself? Why would he trust his own knowledge if he can just sit there and click a button and everything's going to be generated for him within seconds? So that's the biggest thing I would say, just straight off the bat, is your ability, okay? Your ability to not rely on AI. You can use AI to organize your thoughts. You can you can use AI to organize your thoughts, to organize particular things, to put stuff together that's messy and stuff like that. 100% get it to organize it, get it to give you ideas, but don't take it as gospel. Okay. And if you can separate that from using it as a resource rather than something that just be like purely relying on 24/7, that it strips your ability to even think, you will go a long way as a candidate, particularly in this new generation now, where a lot of these graduates over the next 1 to 2 years are going to be coming out of the job, out of the university world, or out of the academic world with all just ChatGPT experience. You know what I mean? With nothing that's fresh into the mind. So if you can get ahead on that, guys, you will stand out so much with your first job. I promise you. Okay. My second point is your ability to ask questions. Okay, the ability to learn is so important. I had one of my own clients, like one of my own students that I was coaching one to one, and he'd started his new company. And he was about 30 days in, and he had said to me, Jonathan, I feel like I'm not learning in this company. And I asked him, I said, well, why? Why don't you think that's the case? He said, I'm scared to ask questions. And I said, well, why? He goes, well, I'm in this massive office. We've got one set of tables for my team. And then beyond that, there's another 60 odd people in this office that I have no idea who they are. And it's very easy to hear all our questions. And I'm scared that I'm going to be judged. Okay. The thing is, guys, you need to be able to ask questions. Okay. Take it from me. All right. I was one of those people that had the fear of asking questions throughout his whole childhood. All right. But what I realized is, and it's something that my dad told me, is you'd rather look dumb for 1 minute by asking a question than thinking that you're doing the right thing, make it wrong, or do it wrong, and then you look like a bigger idiot down the track at a more severe level. Okay. For example, if you're asked to lead a project or you're asked to lead a presentation and you don't know how to do something, but you're too scared to ask at that moment, you could then go the entire presentation creating process, do it in a particular way, thinking it's the right way. Then you present it, it looks wrong, and then you actually look silly. Not silly, but you will feel a lot more silly because you've made that error now in front of 30 people instead of just the one to ask the question. So trust me, guys, do not be scared to ask questions. And trust me, if you are in an environment where you are scared to ask questions and you're scared that your boss is going to, belittle you and stuff like that, get out of there as soon as possible. That is not the place you want to be. You want to be in an environment where questions are encouraged, not looked down upon. Okay, so if you are able to ask those questions as soon as possible and clarify confusion as early as possible, I promise you, you are going to go a very, very long way. Okay. And my third and final point is to be useful, not busy. Okay, this is a big distinction. Okay, and this is something that not a lot of people can master, and it's very hard when you start your first full-time job because 9 times out of 10 you're going to be in a junior position, and 9 times out of 10 you may not actually have a lot of work to do. So it's your ability to analyze the pipeline, analyze the flow of work of the people above you, analyze when somebody around you is having a bad day or a stressful day, why that is the case, and just try to move the ball forward for them and understand where you can come into the picture to make their life easier. Okay. For example, my very first 9 to 5, I was basically like I was a junior recruiter, but I was also an assistant to my boss. Okay. For example, there was one day where I didn't have much work to do. Okay. I could have very easily booked in, let's say, 3 interviews to do. They all could have been dud interviews, but hey, that's 3 hours of me doing interviews. I look busy, right? I'm busy. So that's good. No, okay. Instead of that, where I knew, obviously, like I was never going to do that anyways, but like that's just an example of where you can look busy but not actually be useful or productive with your time. Instead of that, I realized that my boss had to get out X amount of resumes to this client for a big deal, and she was really heavily stuck back doing another activity. So instead of, instead of her worrying about that later on, I prepared it for her to start with. So then by the time she finished one activity, she could at least go and have a look at it and see how it was done rather than have to start it from scratch. I at least laid a foundation for her. I analyzed where there was stress in the pipeline. I analyzed where I could contribute, and I went from there. Okay. And that's the same mindset you guys need to have with your work, is just try to think about the bottleneck. Think about if your boss or your colleague is having a stressful day. The person that you are supporting is having a stressful day. They may need to get a document out, but they haven't been able to proofread it yet. Access the document and proofread it. Ask if you can proofread it. Ask if they need any changes to it. Things along these lines. You're going to be a lot more useful in the system, and you're going to be a lot more helpful as a colleague rather than being like, just doing random bits of work just to keep your time busy. Okay, because trust me, there is a difference between being useful and productive. Okay. I hope this helped, guys. Being very, very honest, I could make much longer videos on all of these things, and I probably will throughout the next couple of weeks. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did and you'd like to learn more from me, feel free to click the links below in my bio. Hope you guys enjoyed. Take care, and I will see you guys in the next episode.